Hello and welcome everyone. So today we will start the second class, that is the function of ecosystem. So mainly ecosystem or key function আছে. Mainly we have four functions. One is the ecological succession, energy flow, nutrient cycling and homeostasis. So first, what is ecological succession? Ecological succession is a process by which communities of plants and animal species in an area are replaced or changed into another over a time period. Like for example, starting from bare rock, it changes into lichens. Lichens grow over there. Then from lichens, small plants and animals. Then perennial herbs, grasses. Then shade intolerant trees. Then big shade tolerant trees. So this whole process is known as ecological succession. So in ecological succession, we have two types of succession. One is the primary succession and other is the secondary succession. So what is primary succession? Primary succession takes place over an area or bare or unoccupied areas such as rock outcrops, newly formed deltas, sand dunes, emerging volcano, etc. This is a place where no community has existed previously. The plants that invade the first bare land, the plants that invade are all called the pioneer species. So in this figure, if we see, the pioneer species are lichens. Clear? These pioneer species show high growth rate but short lifespan, means they have a very short tenure of time. So commonly lichens and phytoplanktons act as a pioneer species on land and water. Next up, in primary succession, it is difficult to observe as there are relatively very few places on Earth that do not have communities of organisms. Since Earth has evolved over 4.5 billion years ago, so there are very few places which does not have community of organisms, and it takes a very large time. Each transitional community that is formed and replaced during the succession is called a serial community. Means these all are serial community. That is, each transitional community, they are temporary community, so they are known as serial community. Entire sequence of communities succeeding each other during the course of succession is termed as shared. The entire course of community is termed as shared. Then we have climax community. What is climax community? A stable, mature, more complex and long-lasting community. So if we see in this figure, this is the climax community. This is a stable community. Clear? Secondary succession. This secondary succession occurs when a community is removed, disturbed or destroyed by a natural event like hurricane or forest fire. Suppose this is a forest. For some reason, this forest has been destroyed. Then after destruction, the new plants and animals that will grow over here, it is called the secondary succession. So a secondary succession is relatively fast and the soil has necessary nutrients in it. With each succession, we will see the biodiversity will increase, productivity will increase and complexity will also increase. Ecological succession can be of two types. One is the autogenic succession, that is if brought by internal communities itself. One is allogenic succession, if by external agents like fire, flood, etc. Then next we will see what are the factors affecting this succession. First is the climate, like sunlight, rainfall, temperature. Next, soil type. Then biotic factors like the plants and animals and their interaction. Physiographic factors, hills, plain areas, etc. And lastly, the fire factor, like growth is generally checked by fire. Example, zoom cultivation, savanna grassland, etc. And it is to note that human being affects only secondary succession, since primary succession has occurred in most of the places from a very early point of time. Next up, we have energy flow. So what is energy flow? So here we need to understand the term trophic level. So let us first understand what is trophic level. For example, let us consider simple food chain. Grass, which is fed by deer, which is fed by tiger. So grass is fed by deer, deer is fed by tiger. So each level, if we see each level, it is called a trophic level. So level through which food energy passes from one group of organisms to other group are called trophic levels. So here there are three trophic levels. Number of trophic level here depends on transmission of one energy from one trophic level to the another. So here there are some few rules. One is a 10% rule. So energy transfers from one trophic level to other following the 10% rule. Means suppose আমি ধৰো ইয়াতে 100 from sunlight, 100 unit of energy is there. They have grassot hatot 100 unit of energy ase. So for transmission from 100 unit only 10% will go. It is 10 unit. And from deer only 10% will go. This is 1 unit. So this is the 10% rule. The total biomass, that is living organic matter, tend to decrease progressively from the base to the upper tropic level. So this is the second rule. As we can see in this figure, sunlight, autotroph, then herbivores, primary carnivores, secondary, these are all tropic levels. So here only 10% is flowing from one tropic level to another. Where the rest 90% goes, the rest 90% goes in respiration. Clear? Next, let us see what is ecological productivity. Ecological productivity is the measure of how much biomass or the organic matter is produced in an ecosystem over a given period. Mane kiman kini organic matter produced in the ecosystem over a given time, like 10 days, 15 days, etc. So here we have two type of ecological productivity. One is the primary productivity, that is the productivity of green plants. That is the primary productivity. For example, I mean, simple examples of grass, deer fed by tiger. So productivity of grass, here it is the primary productivity. Clear? Then under primary productivity we have two parts, the gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Gross primary productivity is total amount of energy that is fixed by plants, while net primary productivity is the energy lost due to respiration. So after respiration, which is the energy lost, that is the net primary productivity. Clear? Next up we have secondary productivity. Rate of energy storage at consumer level, means the energy storage at these levels are called the secondary productivity. So it is to note, productivity of terrestrial ecosystem is always higher than productivity of aquatic ecosystems. Why so? Why? Because of light availability, nutrient availability, temperature stability, more producers than consumers. So these are the reasons why terrestrial ecosystem will have higher productivity than aquatic ecosystem. So let us see some areas of high productivity. First is the tropical rainforest. They have a very highest productivity. Then temperate forest, boreal forest, tropical savanna, woodland and temperate grassland. Then let us see the areas of very low net primary productivity. Extreme deserts, desert scrub, open ocean and tundra and alpine ecosystem. These areas have very low primary productivity. For comparison, jodi question ahe, I have given the figures. Clear? Let us see what are the factors affecting productivity. Sunlight, in both the intensity and duration. If high, then productivity is also high. Temperature, higher the temperature, higher is the productivity. Water, if high and present throughout the year, then this is the region of high productivity. Biotic interaction, so if bhal hoy interaction among the species, then productivity is also high. Next, let us see food chain. So what is food chain? A sequence of energy transfer from lower tropic level to the upper or higher tropic level is called the food chain. Like simple examples, taking the same example, grass, deer. So this represents a food chain, that grass will be fed by deer, deer will be fed by tiger. So this is a food chain. But in practice we do not say simple food chain. We will see a complex food chain. Like for example, grass would be fed by deer. This grass will also be fed by insects. Deer will be fed by tiger. Deer will also be fed by wolf. Similarly, grass will also be fed by herbivores like cows. They will be fed by tiger. Insects will be fed by frog. Insects will also be fed by birds. So we will see a complex system. This is called the food web. So what is the advantage of food web over food chain? So key hoy advantage, ami jodi sao, if for any region one of the species dies. Suppose for example আমি যদি চাও cow gets disappeared, but still tiger has deer to feed. So this whole system ensures stability in the food chain, because যদি food chain not by any chance this deer gets extinguished, then tiger will also starve. But in this system of food web, we will see that extinction of one of the species does not lead to extinction of the collapse of the whole ecosystem. Clear? So in ideal process we see a food chain, but in real we see a food web which ensures stability. Clear? Next up, let us see what is there. There are two types of food chains. Clear? One is the grazing food chain, which starts from green plants. Next is detritus food chain, which starts from dead organic matter. Clear? Again, we have two types of food chain based on the location. One is the terrestrial food chain starting on land, and other is the aquatic food chain. Remember, for aquatic food chain, trophic level can be 6 to 7, or it can be more also. So why? Because energy lost due to respiration is much less in aquatic food chains. So more number of trophic levels can survive. So for example, remember these two food chains. Diatoms will be fed by barnacle larva. Barnacle larva will be fed by arrowworm. Then arrowworm will be fed by herringfish. Second, diatoms will be fed by zooplanktons. Zooplanktons will be fed by crustaceans. Crustaceans will be fed by herringfish. Herringfish will be fed by mackerels. Then small fish, medium fish, large fish and shark. এই দুটা বেলেগ বেলেগ এক্সামত আহি গৈছে, so kindly remember these two. Then let us see what is ecological pyramid. Number of species, total biomass and energy availability. As we go higher up the trophic level, it decreases, so it takes the type of a pyramid. So that is why they are called the ecological pyramid. So there are three types of ecological pyramid. One is the pyramid of numbers, biomass pyramid and energy pyramid. So what is number pyramid? This number pyramid includes only a number of species in the trophic level. As we go higher, suppose taking the example of grass, deer, tiger. So the trophic level increases from this side. So as we go higher, number of species will decrease. So tiger jodi sao, if we see tiger, they will, if there is one tiger, then for one tiger there will be 4 deers. For 4 deers, if we quantify, then there will be 10 units of grass. So as we go higher up the trophic level, the number of species decreases. Clear? This is a number pyramid. But there is an exception. It is inverted for tree ecosystem. For tree ecosystem, this whole cycle is inverted. Let us see why. Because the producer is a tree. Here in the producer, the primary consumers are various insects, and these insects are fed by birds. So as we go higher, the number of species increases. So it represents an inverted pyramid or spindle shape. Suppose this tree is fed by small herbivore birds. These herbivore birds are fed by carnivorous birds. So this is a spindle shape. First increases, then again decreases. Clear? So if we see the pyramid of number, it is always upright for grass chains, but inverted or spindle shape for forest or tree ecosystem. Clear? Next up we have biomass pyramid. It shows the amount of living organic matter present in an organism. So for terrestrial, it is always upright, but for aquatic ecosystem, it is inverted as shown in the figure. Clear? Next up, energy pyramid. As we have seen the 10% rule, as we go higher up the trophic level, the energy decreases. So energy pyramid is always upright. Clear? So this is all about food chain, food web, pyramids and productivity. Next function we can see is nutrient cycling. So what is nutrient cycling? Nutrient cycle or biogeochemical cycle is defined as a cyclic pathway by which nutrient pass through in order to be recycled or utilized. For example, carbon cycle. So how carbon flows from atmosphere to the earth, then again passes through the atmosphere. It is called a nutrient cycling. So nutrient cycling can be of two types. One is the gaseous, that is maximum the process takes place at gaseous level, and one is the sedimentary, that maximum of the process of cycling takes place at the earth. So let us first start with the carbon cycle. So what are the process of carbon cycle? Let me write here. So first is photosynthesis. First up we have photosynthesis. That is the primary pathway for carbon to enter the living world. So what it does here, terrestrial plants and aquatic phytoplanktons, they take in CO2 from the atmosphere and use sunlight to convert it into organic matter. Secondly, we have respiration. So what is respiration? The process including plants and animals respire to get energy. This process breaks down organic compounds and releases CO2 back in the atmosphere. Third, we have decomposition. When organisms like trees and animals, when they die, they are broken down by bacteria and fungi to release CO2 into the atmosphere or release CO2 in the carbon in the soil. Clear? These dead organisms, when they die, they are stored in the soil as carbon. After decomposition, next up we have sedimentation and fossilization. So what is sedimentation and fossilization? After they are sent back to the earth, then after millions and millions of years, they are compressed and get under the soil to turn into fossils. So this is sedimentation and fossilization. After sedimentation and fossilization, we have combustion. So upon mining and digging, when these fossil fuels are taken up, then they are used by factories to emit CO2 back in the atmosphere, and this completes the cycle. Clear? So let us see what are the forms of carbon present in the earth. First is the CO2, then CO and CH4, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and methane. So carbon monoxide, when it is released in incomplete combustion of fossils. It is a deadly toxic gas. Then methane is a colorless flammable gas. This is released by decomposition of organic matter by anaerobic bacteria. What are the sources? Sources are wetlands, paddy fields, ruminants and termite fossils. And remember, 71% of the carbon is found in oceans. Clear? Next up we have nitrogen cycle. Here are the 5 key stages. Let us see. First is the nitrogen fixation. So what is this? This converts inert nitrogen gas into usable ammonia. Then next up we have nitrification. What is nitrification? It is a two-step process. First, nitrifying bacteria like Nitromonas or Nitrococcus, they convert nitrites to nitrites. They convert ammonia to nitrites. They convert NH3 to nitrification. First NH3 to NO2 minus. Then secondly, other bacteria like Nitrobacter, they convert nitrites to NO2 minus to NO3 minus. Clear? So this is the nitrification. Next up we have assimilation. So what is assimilation? These plants take up the NO3 minus present in the soil to convert into ammonia from the soil through their roots. Clear? This is the way by which animals get their nitrogen, by eating plants or other animals. Next up we have, this is the assimilation. Next up we have ammonification. So what is ammonification? When these plants and animals will die. Ammonification. So when these plants and animals will die or animals excrete waste, decomposers like fungi or bacteria will break down the organic matter. During this decomposition, the nitrogen locked up in the organic matter is converted back into inorganic ammonia like NH3 or ammonium ions NH4 plus. This ammonia is then available for nitrification again. Lastly, we have denitrification. So what is denitrification? This process closes the loop. Denitrifying bacteria like Pseudomonas in the soil converts nitrates, NO3 minus nitrates into N2, inert nitrogen, which releases nitrogen back in the atmosphere. This is a denitrification, and this process closes the loop. For exam point of view, we must know the bacteria that are useful in each process. So for nitrogen fixation, we have free living bacteria like Azotobacter or Basianthia, or anaerobic Clostridium or Rhodospirillum. Then symbiotic nitrogen like Rhizobium, who lives in a symbiotic relationship. Then cyanobacteria like Nostoc, Anabina, Spirulina, plus lightning plus industrial method. Next, for nitrification, we have Nitrosomonas and Nitrococcus. Then this nitrite is further oxidized to nitrate with the help of bacteria Nitrobacter. Then for ammonification, we have bacteria like Bacillus, Clostridium, Protus, Pseudomonas and Streptomycin. For denitrification, we have bacteria like Pseudomonas and Thiobacillus. Clear? So what are the sources of nitrogen? The source of nitrogen are fossil burning, biomass burning, vehicular emissions, fertilizer waste, aviations, etc. Next, we have the phosphorus cycle. So let us see the phosphorus cycle. First process here, if we see, first is the weathering of rocks. First is the weathering of rocks. Secondly, second process ki hoy? This is the absorption and assimilation. Absorption by plants, and this is then assimilated by the further by the animals. Clear? Absorption and assimilation. And thirdly, decomposition. Decomposition ki hoy? When these plants and animals will die, they will release this phosphorus back into the earth. That is the decomposition. Here, after decomposition, they can be again the process of absorption and assimilation, or the fourth process which may take is the sedimentation. Sedimentation ki hobo? They are first leach into water. When the phosphorus is not taken up by organisms, often they are get washed from the land into rivers and eventually flow into oceans. In the ocean, it can combine with other elements and settle in the seabed here. Then over millions of years, this sedimentary layer can harden into rock. This rock may remain buried for years or eons until a geological uplift like formation of Himalaya. Then formation of mountain, then it can again lift into mountains, and the same process will continue. So this is the phosphorus cycle. So what does, next we will see what does excess of phosphate does. Excess of phosphate cause eutrophication. That is, আমি দেখা পাও ন কিছুমান পুখুৰীত green layer এটা. So this is the eutrophication. Clear? Next, lastly, we have the sulfur cycle. So let us see the sulfur cycle. First sulfur first process is released from the lithosphere. So firstly, sulfur is released from the lithosphere. Weathering of sulfur containing rocks which releases sulfur into soil. Next, same process, this is the assimilation by organisms. Then animals, first it will be assimilated by the plants, then when animals obtain sulfur by consuming plants or other animals. Thirdly, we have decomposition. When these plants or animals will die, they decomposers break down this organic matter. This process returns sulfur to the soil or water. Clear? Next up, we have the gaseous phase. This sulfur enters the atmosphere through both natural and human process. Through natural process, first, this sulfur is released from the atmosphere, released through volcanic eruption. Then this is the natural process or যদি আমি human process কওঁ from the sulfur from vehicular exhaust. Then last is the deposition. This sulfur when released in the atmosphere by the volcanoes, this SO2 will combine with water in the clouds. It will form H2SO4, which is the acid rain, and it will return into the earth. So this completes the cycle. So this is the sulfur cycle. Clear? So what are the sources of sulfur? First is the weathering of rocks, then volcanic eruption, hot springs, geyser, decomposition, then fossil burning, mining, drilling, etc. So what does excessive sulfur causes? It causes air pollution, acid rainfall, smog formation, or impairs photosynthesis activity. Excess use of phosphate and nitrates can cause similarly eutrophication. Clear? Then last function we have is the ecological stability or homeostasis. So what do we mean by homeostasis? Homeostasis in an ecosystem refers to inherent ability to maintain an equilibrium state regulating the structure and functional process of their species. It is like a self-regulating capacity. For example, osmosis. So what is osmosis? Osmosis is a self-regulating capacity of fishes. Like it is called osmoregulation. So যেতিয়া fishes travel from salt water to fresh water or vice versa, then they have the ability to filter the salt. That is called the osmoregulation. Then hibernation. Hibernation কি হয়? The animals sleep for 6 months to prevent themselves from freezing cold and to search for food. So there is a process by which they maintain their own body temperature or they maintain themselves in the harsh environment. So this is called the ecological stability or homeostasis. Lastly, আমি দেখা পাইছিলো ecosystem মানে কি হয়? What is ecosystem? It is the interaction between biotic and abiotic interaction. But we will see there are some biological interactions too. So let us see. First is the mutualism. Mutualism মানে কি হয়? Mutualism process by which if two species interact, then both the species are benefited. যদি দুটা species interact হয়, both the species get benefited, then they are said to be in a mutualism. For example, coral polyps and zooxanthellae. So আমি যোনবোৰ coral reef দেখা পাওঁ, so it is an interaction between coral polyps and zooxanthellae. Coral polyps provide them with shelter. In return, zooxanthellae provide them the colors and also with necessary nutrients. Clear? Next up we have commensalism. So what is commensalism? If the interaction in which one species is benefited but the other species is neither benefited nor harmed, this is called commensalism. For example, epiphyte on a mango tree. আমি যে দেখা পাওঁ গছত লতা কিছুমান. So this is the epiphyte in a mango tree, where mango tree is neither benefited nor harmed, but epiphyte is benefited. So this is commensalism. Next up we have proto-cooperation. কি হয় proto-cooperation? Here also both partners are benefited, but this cooperation is not obligatory for their survival. For example, for coral polyps and zooxanthellae, আমি কি দেখা পালো that their interaction is very much essential for survival, but for proto-cooperation this is not obligatory for their survival. For example, cattle aggregates and animals. Like cattle aggregate, what they do? They travel alongside the animals, and when they travel, the insects goes up. So tetya cattle aggregate feed on the insects. So this is the proto-cooperation. This is not obligatory for the survival, but just a cooperation. Next is predation. You can search for more in these examples. Clear? আপোনালোকে এবাৰ গুগল কৰি চাব পাৰে. For the pictures you will better understand this. Then predation মানে কি হয়? When one species is benefited and the other species is harmed. This is predate করা. For example, pride of lions attacking larger animals like elephant or tiger hunting deer. Clear? Next is parasitism. So what is parasitism? Here, similarly, one species benefited, the other species are harmed. But in predation, one species is definitely killed. But in parasitism, the later species may not get definitely killed. Like for example, mosquito feeding on humans. Clear? Next is competition, in which is the type of interaction harmful for both. For example, cheetah and lions. If they compete, then both will get harmed. Then seventh, this is the amensalism. This is the process in which harmful for one. This is harmful for one, but the other species remain unaffected. For example, banyan tree blocking the entire sunlight. For example, banyan tree ki hoy? It is a very large tree. It blocks the sunlight for small trees. So one species is harmed, but other species remain unaffected. Lastly, we will see cannibalism. Cannibalism ki hoy? Here, one species is benefited, other is harmed. Similar like predation and parasitism. But cannibalism is for the same species. Ki hoy? Here, আমি যদি এক্সাম্পল চাও কিং কোবরা ফিডস দেয়ার ওন স্পিসিস, মানে আমি যদি প্রেডেশনত চাও, হোয়াট লায়নে কি করে, লায়ন অ্যাটাকস অন ডিয়ার, টাইগার অ্যাটাকস অন ডিয়ার অর কাউ, দে অ্যাটাক ডিফারেন্ট স্পিসিস. বাট ইন প্যারাসাইটিজম হোয়াট উই সি, it is the attack of same species. King cobra নিজর species, they feed on their own species. This is the king cobra. This is the cannibalism. Clear? Then lastly, what is symbiotic relationship? Is the extreme form of mutualism. So আমি কোড দেখা পাও, Cnidaria in symbiotic relationship with unicellular dinoflagellate algae called zooxanthellae, or fungus with plants or lichens, protozoa with unicellular symbiont like bacteria, cyanobacteria, unicellular algae with multicellular symbiont like ruminants, termites, cockroach, etc. So this is symbiotic relationship. So this is all.